Gear up for Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. It's your final word on sports all across the state. Here's your host, Phil Kornblum.
You can certainly make up ground in a round like tomorrow, and we'll see it happen. But being able to kind of not play with shots or play a little more conservative and, you make a bogey because you don't try and do too much on a day like tomorrow. That's nice and very helpful.
You want to make up some shots, you best not be playing early. Not at Royal Burkdale. I tell you what, and George Bryan will join us at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. But if you played early, you were screwed. The weather was pretty difficult. They had like 3 different days today at Royal Burkdale, and it actually kind of the middle of the afternoon. The weather was near perfect for scoring conditions. Jordan Spieth, kind of been smooth and easy. Now, he did play a little bit earlier, but just a smooth, easy 5 under par 65. Brooks Koepka had a 65. Matt Kuchar had a 65. They've got 1 shot leads over Paul Casey and Charles Schwartzel at 4 under par. Dustin Johnson, a 1 over par 71. Roy McIlroy, a 1 over par 71. Ricky High Top Shoes Fowler. Did you see the shoes he had on? Some Michael Jordan high tops.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. I mean, they were golf shoes. He had the golf cleats on, but they were the Jordan high tops. He had 71. Phil Mickelson, 3 over 73. Sergio Garcia, a 3 over 73. Our buddy Wesley Bryan got off to a so-so start, but he really hung in there. Couldn't make any birdies, but he made a bunch of pars after making 3 early bogeys. Wound up shooting 4 over 74. So he's got some work to do tomorrow, but he goes later tomorrow. He went in the morning today. He goes later tomorrow so that he will have a chance to make it up. Speaking of going early tomorrow, Chad, I don't know what to talk about today. The Professor Tom Hayes with me, Jared Rogers pushing all the right buttons behind the glass. I mean, we got so much going on today. It's been kind of a busy sports
They always warned us that this was the dead period.
Yeah, it's really dead. The juice is loose. We got he's not loose yet, but he's going to be loose. We got just a weird situation down at College of Charleston. We talked about it some yesterday, and that the Charleston had re-engaged with Chad Holbrook. Although they hadn't called Chad, but they did call his people.
Okay.
And came hat in hand. And the College of Charleston did announce today the hiring of the former USC baseball coach, Chad Holbrook. I know that this is something that Chad wanted because he wanted to stay in state for a couple of reasons. He gets to stay in the state retirement system, right, which everybody who is in the state retirement system tells me that's a pretty good idea. I wish somebody had mentioned that to me about 40 or 50 years ago, that, hey, maybe I ought to look at a state job. But anyway, it's a perk. So that's one reason that he wanted to go down there. He likes the state of South Carolina. Obviously. Right. Of course, Nashville's not a bad place to live, and he had an opportunity to go to Vanderbilt, but he would not been the head coach. He likes the College of Charleston program. They were only 28-31 a year ago, but under Monty Lee, they reached the NCAA tournament 4 times in 6 years. Won regional 1 year, went to the super regional. I don't know how far you can go at College of Charleston. I know that he probably won't say so, but Tom, don't you think he's got revenge in the back of his mind as well? Don't you think he'd love to bring a team up to the Ray in the regionals and knock off the Gamecocks?
I'm not so certain it's revenge, Teddy. It's the fact that he knows he's a good coach. And he was one of those guys that I'm not going to take a year off. I want to get back up on that bucking Bronco right now and ride it. And this was, and let's face it, Gary Gilmore showed that you can pull it off at Coastal.
That's true.
If you can't recruit guys to go down to Charleston, something wrong with you.
Right. And I mean, it's a beautiful ballpark down there. Now, Charleston made the basketball decision to get into the Colonial Athletic Association. It's not a good baseball conference. Northeastern, I think, won it last year. They're in the Boston area, right?
Yes.
Northeastern. They won it last year. And Chad's going to be in for a culture shock a little bit his first trip through when you start going to Northeastern and Hofstra and Delaware, and there's 47 people in the stands instead of going to Arkansas or Mississippi State or even a Georgia or a Missouri where they've got some fans in the stands. So he'll have a little bit of a culture shock there. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to recruit. I mean, you've got you got the two big dogs in South Carolina and in Clemson, and then Coastal Carolina. They're kind of a big dog too. They just won a national championship the year before that, and I'm sure what Coach Hobart wants to do with Charleston is get them back to that the status that Monty Lee had them, where they're always an NCAA tournament team. Well, not always, but always a threat to be an NCAA tournament team, and always a threat in a regional. I don't think too many teams like to look at the bracket the 1st of June and say, oh, we got College of Charleston coming in our regional. I don't think they look forward to that. Like these days, people don't look forward to having Coastal Carolina there. And you're right. It'd be a great place to be able to recruit to. It's a great town to live in as well.
Well, yeah, I can see Chad with his contacts, Teddy, trying to beef up his midweek schedule.
Yes,
and that would be well, we'll play some of the big dogs. We'll have North Carolina, my alma mater, South Carolina probably scheduling, Coastal, maybe a Georgia Tech on the schedule, or maybe Wake Forest, and hey, we got something that South Carolina and Clemson doesn't have. See this? It's called the Atlantic Ocean, and the beaches we have around here. You can recruit at the College of Charleston.
Well, Gary Gilmore's done a good job of using the ocean, and they're not on the ocean. They're a little bit away from that. But the Patriots Point there, where College of Charleston's baseball park is, the ocean's right there, right behind you. It's just a beautiful, beautiful area there. So, and Chad's an outstanding recruiter, and he's got a burr under the saddle now. He's got something to prove. So he's going to work his fanny off in order to recruit. And plus, he's getting 2 paychecks for a while. I don't know if they made a settlement with South Carolina and they just paid him off at one time, or if they're paying him along the way. But he did have 2 years left on his contract.
Well, Teddy, everybody knows, and I always tell people when they play the game, I don't want to hear moaning and complaining when something doesn't work. I want you to tell me when a coach does something wrong and it worked, and you give him credit for it, and if he does something right and it doesn't work. I think if anything Chad has learned is to have a thicker skin. When you made your call, don't let fans moan and complain and you listen to it. I think you have to put some earmuffs on sometime. And I think he has learned from this experience here that you got to put the earmuffs on. This is my program. This is the way I coach it. And if things go right and I do something wrong, well, you give me credit for it. If I do something right and you say it's wrong because it didn't work, doesn't mean it wasn't wrong.
Well, see, that's a great point right there. And if I could use a football analogy, a lot of times you'll see a play call and you'll say, man, that was a great call. Well, it might have been a great call because the running back made somebody miss at the line of scrimmage, and then made somebody miss in the secondary. It might have been a great call because somebody missed a tackle or because somebody tripped and fell down,
right?
And that made it a great call. They might make a great call and it gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage because somebody missed a block or somebody went the wrong way. And boy, what a terrible call. Well, no, it wasn't a terrible call just because it didn't work. It was terrible execution, but it wasn't a terrible call. I still get calls on the morning show here in Columbia. We still talk about pitching to Seth Beer. I mean, everyone in the world would have pitched to Seth Beer. We had Monty Lee on the air, the Clemson coach, and we asked Rick Sanford asked him, well, will you have pitched to Monty Lee? Would you have pitched to Seth Beer? Monty Lee said, of course I would have. He was a tying run. You don't put him on base in that situation. Now, unfortunately, the Carolina pitcher hung a curveball, and good hitters, you hang it, we bang it.
And Seth Beer, there was what was a 1-2 count, wasn't it, Teddy?
I think it was 3-2.
3-2. Okay,
but it was 2 strikes on.
But yeah, you're not going to walk him now. You had him off balance.
No,
you just made a bad pitch.
It was one of those years where everything, the injury to Tyler Johnson was just a crippling injury for the Gamecocks. But if it had not been for 2015 when they missed the tournament, they wouldn't have been all the backlash this year. But we're going to talk about that Lots to talk about tonight, and we have room for you on Sports Talk. 800-956-7266. All right, a number of things we need to touch on real quickly, and we do have some open phone lines at 800-956-7266. As we were talking about in the first segment, former South Carolina head baseball coach Chad Holbrook staying in state. He will become the next head baseball coach at College of Charleston. Boy, what a soap opera this was. As the college turns, he was offered the job. He and the athletic director were discussing the parameters of some other things involved in the program, and the school president says, "Oh, by the way, I've changed my mind." And then later in the day, I think maybe the school lawyer gave the school president a call and said, there's such a thing as a verbal contract. And so later they got back in touch with Coach Holbrook, who I can tell you was livid after what happened initially. And but he calmed down and finally they first of all he went through his agent, and finally that he did talk to him and got pretty much everything he wanted. So he has accepted that job. Holbrook, 5 years at Carolina, 200 wins, 201.06, a 654 winning percentage, a couple super regionals, 2013, 2016, won the SEC East in 2016. Of course, the USC associate head coach for 2 national championship teams as well. The British Open, Jordan Spieth at 5 under par, Brooks Koepka 5 under par, Matt Kuchar at 5 under par, Dustin Johnson 1 over 71, Phil Mickelson shot a 73, Wesley Bryan a 4 over par 74. Baseball this afternoon, Toronto knocked off Boston 8-6. Jason Smoke 3 for 5, 3 RBIs. And 2 long balls.
Justin Smoke.
2 home runs. Yeah, Justin, what did I say?
Jason.
Well, I was close. Anyway, Justin, 298, 24 home runs, 58 RBIs. That's a career high for home runs, and he's 1 away from a career high RBIs. The winning pitcher in the game was Dominic Leone, the former Clemson pitcher. Okay. He went 2 1/3 hitless in relief, and Steve Pearce also knocked in a couple runs for the the Blue Jays. Let me correct that before I make that mistake.
Some guys, especially the major league level, Teddy, you don't know when the light comes on. Guys get by 28, 29, and 30, they learn to select their pitch. And it seems like now Justin Smoke is, he's dialed in.
Yeah, he's having that career year. Mets beat St. Louis 3-2, Pittsburgh 4-2 over Milwaukee, Arizona 12-2 over Cincinnati. The Braves swept by the Cubs, but that's okay. They get to go to the West Coast and play that other team that's, I don't think they're really that good, are they? The Dodgers.
They're super hot.
They played the Dodgers tonight. The juice is loose. Well, you will be on October the 1st. O.J. Simpson granted parole, served 9 years of a 33-year sentence.
70 years old. Boy, that makes me feel kind of.
He was one of my favorite players. Of course, I was a big Joe Namath fan, but probably my second favorite player back in the 70s was O.J. Simpson. Just loved the way he played. He could knife through that line, could cut back. I mean, just an outstanding running back.
Well, the one thing.
Come on, that was good.
Yeah, it was.
Went right over your head.
No, it was. Okay. It was. Yeah, I tried to ignore it. No, but the one thing I look at OJ, and I was looking at the tape one time, and I was looking. I said, he's running so smooth. Is he running fast? And then I checked it out. When he opened up his strides, 2 steps were 5 yards. He was like 1, 2, 5, and he's just gone. God looked like he's catching up to him, but he never could.
He was a world-class sprinter. Also ran track at Southern Cal. 8 new members elected to the University of South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame. The class including Bill Courier, a former football player, Eric Norwood, former football player, good player. Jamar Nesbitt, who I always liked, former football player, and Bill Courier. I mentioned him already, didn't I?
Yeah, played a lot of years with the Giants as safety.
He was so good, I mentioned him twice. Larry Davis from the basketball team, Randy Martz, 14-0 with the 1977 Gamecocks. That June Raines team finished second in the College World Series, lost 2-1 to Arizona State. I knew March was a stud when they went up to Clemson, which had won 26 straight, had opened the season 26-0, and had them. I want to say it was 2-0, and it started raining, and he delivered a pitch, and his plant foot slipped on the mound. And Bill Wilhelm himself, he could sense a comeback here. Bill Wilhelm himself was out on the mound with a rake and the dry sand out because he wanted to make sure they played. And if you've ever pitched or done anything like that, when your foot slips like that, it's hard not to think about that.
Right. Exactly.
But Randy Marsh came right back and never balled him. Boom, 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 and got out of that ball game. I knew he was a stud then. Tricia Popowski, softball. Jennifer Van Assen Brunelli, swimming and diving. Chuck Allen, football player and member of the Board of Trustees, being honored as well. Tireless supporter of Gamecock Athletics and a member of the Board of Trustees since 2008.
And Teddy, one other thing, Florida, we were talking about getting ready for the season. Redshirt senior safety Marcel Harris will miss the entire season, tearing his Achilles tendon.
That hurts.
So that hurts a lot. And, of course, that senior leadership in your secondary, that's going to cost them there. But in a team that's still trying to find their offense, trying to find that quarterback who's going to, be that bell cow for them.
That is a difficult injury to rehab as well because you use that Achilles tendon so often. We got another watch list. Are we through with these watch lists yet?
One
anyway,
every week.
The Doak Walker, well, I think it's one every day. The Doak Walker Award candidates out includes, and of course, this is to the top running backs in the country, and it does include Rico Dowdle, the South Carolina sophomore, on the list. Demaria Crockett from Missouri, Damian Harris from Alabama, Sonny Michel from Georgia, Cameron Petway from Auburn, Jordan Scarlett from Florida, Ralph Webb from Vanderbilt. I think he's a very good player, by the way. Arius Williams from Mississippi State, Justin Crawford. I don't know why I mentioned him. Nick Chubb. Crawford's from West Virginia. I was looking at Nick Chubb, though, from Georgia. And Darius Geis from LSU, John Hillman from Boston College, Dietrich Mills. Is it Dietrich or Dedrick? I'm not sure.
Dietrich.
I think it's Dietrich. Mills from Georgia Tech, Jacques Patrick from Florida State, Bo Scarborough from Alabama, Benny Snell from Kentucky, Devois Whaley from Arkansas, and Sean Wilson from Duke among the candidates for the Doak Walker
I was
Award.
chastised by Phil last year when I kept mentioning early in the season that Rico Dowdle was getting healthy. And he asked me, he said, why are you so high on this guy? I said, I'm not high on him. But if Marcus Lattimore says the guy's good, I'm going to take And, of course, he was right. The guy can break tackles. He can catch passes. He knows how to pick up the blitz. And Teddy, it's always interesting when you see a running back was forced to play quarterback in high school. It's something about them. They sort of have an affinity to say, look, I have to protect my man because I've been back there once and know how tough it can be. So Rico Dowdle, I think, is going to be an exceptional back. But they got a stack of exceptional backs at South Carolina now.
Do they?
Yes.
Oh, we hope so. I'm with you. I like Dowdle, Turner, Denson, and see what those guys can do.
And Tyson Williams, the transfer from North Carolina. Yeah.
Couple of let me meander back to Coach Holbrook. Scott Eisberg from WCIV TV in Charleston tweeted out that Erskine head coach Kevin Nichols will join Coach Holbrook's staff, and that Scott Wingo is considering an offer as a volunteer assistant. I was not able to confirm that. Alex Riley, Star News out of Wilmington, said that North Carolina Wilmington pitching coach Matt Williams is a candidate as a pitching coach and lead recruiter down at Charleston as well. So a couple of those notes to Chad Holbrook. All right, be right back, folks. right, Teddy Hefner back with you. I'm sitting in for Philip Kornbluth and joined by Tom Hayes, Jared Rogers behind the glass, and we are joined by the man, the myth, the legend. Mike Morgan is with us. Michael, how are you?
I'm doing well. Congratulations sitting in the big chair over there.
Oh, yeah, I'm making about $12, $13. They hadn't figured out yet whether it's 12 or 13. I think they're still in negotiations.
Well, you tie that in with your greeting gig at Walmart, and that's going to go a long way.
Well, I'm trying to get Chad Holbrook's agent to represent me and hope I get the 13 instead of the 12. Now, what a bizarre thing down at Charleston. We tweeted out on Monday and said on the show that it was pretty much a done deal. But then, when you've been in the media as long as we guys have, Mike, you know that the old CYA, and you always put in comma, barring a last-minute snag. Boy, did we have a last-minute snag.
I guess so.
All of a sudden, he was offered the job, accepted the job, was told by the AD, tell your family to get ready to move to Charleston. They were talking about the parameters of the program, and the school president calls over and says, I've changed my mind. So it got really, really screwy.
Yeah, from what I understand, there might have been some pressure for another candidate from different folks over there, but that's all I really know about it. I'm happy for Chad. I know that much. I was thinking to myself when the conversation was about Chad possibly being offered an assistant job at Vanderbilt. What job would you rather have? And that might sound like an easy answer. Well, clearly you want the head coaching job, but assistants now at SEC caliber programs, particularly the likes of Vanderbilt, can make some pretty good money. There's not nearly the pressure. You've got a situation with an established head coach in Tim Corbin who's not going anywhere anytime soon. So there's a lot of things about that job that could possibly even be more attractive than a mid-major head coaching job. But I think for Chad Holbrook, I'm just guessing without talking to him, and I know you talk to him more than I do. The fact of the matter is, once you get that taste of being the guy, it's hard to get it out. And even though South Carolina didn't end the way, obviously, he would have wanted, he still wants another go-round to show everybody he can be the guy and be successful being the guy. And as we've seen before, whether it's Monty Lee or somebody else, that job has been a pretty good springboard for head coaching jobs elsewhere here in the past couple of decades.
That's a conversation Rick Sanford and I had on the morning show about which particular situation, because Vanderbilt, Tim Corbin's 55 years old. I don't know how much longer he's going to want to stay in that job. If you're Chad, you go up there and I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years from now, maybe Tim Corbin's ready to move on. I mean, he's turned Vanderbilt into a very attractive position. A lot of the entitlement money, or whatever the heck you call that money, that is there as well. I mean, that's a great job to have if you're in that position, if you've had success, and there's no reason to think that he would not have success in that role at Vanderbilt. So I'm with you. I think that was maybe a little bit more difficult decision than some people thought. I do know that one of the factors is he loves the state of South Carolina, so you're able to stay in the state of South Carolina, and he's able to stay in the state retirement system, which helps a little bit as well. And although I don't know if he would say it, but I still think in the back of his mind he wants to do a good job at College of Charleston and maybe come to the Ray in a regional and have a chance to upset the Gamecocks.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. That's a healthy, competitive nature that you have, that most of these guys do have. But again, Monty Lee took them all the way to a super. It's kind of one of those maybe sleepy giant type programs. We saw what Coastal Carolina was able to do. Now, I don't know if College of Charleston quite has the funding of a Coastal does. But I know this, it's a very attractive university in a very attractive city. And if you put money into that program and facilities, then there's no reason why College of Charleston can't be very competitive for a long time. And we know Chad Holbrook, no matter where he's been, has been able to recruit good players.
Well, let's now that we're deep into the baseball season, All-Star break is over. The Braves have reached 500, then get swept by the Cubs. And we get to that area now, Mike, where the trading deadline looms. The Braves are buyers, sellers, or they're going to stand pat this year?
I think if that leans any direction, it's going to be sellers. And when I say that with kind of an asterisk. Sometimes that has a connotation that a team is just mailing it in and they're just having a fire sale. By no means is that the case. I mean, they're not selling any of their players that are in the long-term fold. Obviously, they're not selling Freddie Freeman. They're not selling Ender Inciarte. They're not selling Julio Teheran. But they could very well be selling a guy like Brandon Phillips, a guy like Matt Adams, maybe some other guys in the bullpen. I think that's possible. I don't think there's going to be major movement, to be honest with you, in Atlanta before the trade deadline. I think overall, the fact that they did hit 500 is above and beyond anybody's expectation level. And there's a lot of things to like about this team compared to what we've seen the last couple of years. And they're still so young, and they've got the top farm system in baseball. So when you add all that up, you don't need to do anything radical here in 2017 when really the big picture is what this team is going to look like in 2018.
Obviously, those rumors around at Tehran, for whatever reason, this ballpark has not been friendly to him, the new ballpark. And even had some rumors, I think, a straight-up deal. He'd go to Oakland for Sonny Gray, I believe. No legs to that.
Well, that would be a fleece, in my opinion. If you could get Sonny Gray for Julio Teheran straight up, I can't imagine the Oakland A's will not get a better offer than that, quite frankly. Sonny Gray is a guy that has proven himself and can be an elite pitcher. Julio Teheran, unfortunately, whether it's this ballpark or Turner Field, has been hot and cold. So is he a possibility to be dealt? Yeah, I could see that. I don't think they're shopping Julio Teheran, but they would certainly listen because he has had the inconsistency, particularly this year. But if you could somehow get Gray for Teheran with giving up no prospects or nobody else in the deal, to me, that'd be fantastic.
I know there's been some inquiries about Matt Adams, but the Braves, they got him so cheap. I think from what I understand, they have a tendency to want to keep him.
Well, the only thing the thing that Matt Adams has caught in is that while Freddie Freeman has proven he can play third base this year, long term you can't convince me that he's going to be anywhere but first. Mm-hmm. He's an elite first baseman, one of the best in baseball, and that's where he's most comfortable. He's taken one for the team this year by playing some third to get the extra bat in there. But I don't know where Matt Adams fits long term, other than a platoon guy and a guy who comes off the bench. But the way he's hitting the baseball, he's reached his maximum value. So I'm quite certain they're going to listen to a lot of deals that come the way of the Braves for Matt Adams, because again, he's just a man that plays a position that, unfortunately for him, is occupied by one of the best in the business. So I think if you can get something for him in the next couple of weeks, then certainly you go for it.
Has Adams reached 30 yet? Is he about 29, 30, something along that?
I think he's late 20s, yeah. I mean, he came up with the Cardinals just a few years ago, so I would imagine late 20s.
Well, I guess the final question to ask you, the Braves, does it look like, or is it just me, that they're fast-tracking Ronald Acuna, bringing him up to Gwinnett? With any ideas you think of making a big club at some point next season?
Absolutely. Acuna is the most exciting hitting prospect that they've had in a long time. I mean, they had Peraza and they had Bethancourt. But really, I would say this. He's the most exciting prospect they've had coming through their farm system since Freddie Freeman.
Wow.
And he's got it all. I mean, at 19 years old, that is a young man that's probably going to be starting in the outfield very soon at SunTrust Park.
Braves and the Dodgers tonight. Dodgers have won 31 of 35. Last time they did that, 1899. That was even before my time.
You covered
Mike.
that team, Teddy, I remember, right?
Hey, Mike, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. music is that?
It's just, trying to get creative out here. Switch it up on you a little bit.
You got any Elvis?
Elvis, I'm not sure if we've got the clearing for Elvis, but we run a tight ship here where we can't violate too many FCC laws, right?
Yeah, that was Barry Bonds at the clearing, not the. Oh no, the clear. Okay. All right, we've had Delvin holding on for a little bit. We got recruiting coming right up, so Delvin, you can't take too long because we can't miss the recruiting. Philip would probably drive back and fire all of us. But let's get Delvin on from Fountain Inn. Delvin, good morning or good evening.
Hey guys, how y'all doing?
Great, sir.
Yeah, about this Chad Hooper thing. Are we sure you still the head coach? Connor ain't changed his mind yet, again. You never know. You never know. Friday morning at the press conference, he could say the basketball coach Earl Grant's new head baseball coach.
Well, Delvin, once your name goes up on the crawl on ESPN, it says you the head coach. I think that's
official.
That's official.
I hear that, but man, I'm just glad it worked out, man. All this mess going on with the social, man, we saw this, but we shouldn't be shocked about this because we saw it in basketball with them.
Yeah, they've messed up a couple of coaches' situations. There's no doubt about that. Glenn McConnell needs to keep his nose. I mean, I know he's the president, but you hired an AD. Let the AD do his job.
Yeah, I know. I understand that the players want a former player to coach, but like you said, you get an AD to try to hire and fire people. Let him do it.
I'm with you all the way on that one. Thank you, Delvin. Appreciate it.
That's my call.
All right. Now, the long-awaited, the award-winning recruiting report with Jared Rogers.
Award-winning.
Yeah, it won something somewhere.
Somewhere, once upon a time.
Yeah.
Well, let's go for the award tonight. Wide receiver Josh Van. I almost want to say Josh Van Zant. Josh Van of Tucker, Georgia, will spend his weekend in Columbia with his family, seeking more clarity with his decision because it's down to Gamecocks and the University of Georgia. He was at Georgia last weekend, so the Gamecocks will get their chance this week to spin Van back in the other direction towards them. Van's coming Friday for the Will Muschamp camp and will stay over Saturday for the Prospect Social event. This is from him. I have the opportunity to do what the players do, Van said regarding what he wants through the experience. Some of the activities they do on a regular basis, that would be pretty cool. I feel like I know enough about them. It's a great school. I've got everything down to what I need to know. Van said that his visit to Georgia last weekend was also an overnight trip, and he hung out with the players, and as he gets closer to his decision, Georgia's appeal to him to stay at home and represent his state is growing stronger, and he said that's affected his thinking. It does a lot because it's the hometown team, and it's not that far from home, and it's an easy way for my parents to get up there, he said. South Carolina is not that far, but I guess for the hometown, it'd be great to have my name being called on the home team. Then said both schools are recruiting him with the same level of intensity and that he's in contact with each side a lot. He can't pinpoint a leader at this point. I think it's kind of a 50-50 show right now, said Van. It was back and forth. It was Georgia, then South Carolina, then Georgia, then South Carolina. I've been to both schools, and I want them both at the same time. Van does not have a specific date for his announcement, but he might have one just before the season starts. If now, then a couple weeks into if not then a couple weeks into the season. Now we're going to go to the defensive side of the ball with defensive end Raekwon O'Neal of Conway. He's got a busy agenda in the next week, beginning Saturday with a stop at USC for the Spurs Up Cookout. He loves Columbia, and he's headed to the Northeast where he knows Rutgers and Maryland will be two of his visits. O'Neal said USC remains a constant in his ear. He's hoping to bring them into the fold. He said he's been talking with Will Muschamp, Lance Thompson, and Eric Walford. They tell me they really want me, and we're starting to build a relationship, O'Neal said. They're giving him a lot of the what for on how he's going to be a big part of their program coming forth. Asked if he had any special feelings for USC. O'Neal said, yes, sir, but it's classified. I do have a favorite, but nobody knows it. So I'm not saying that someone should go into his diary, but there is information there, I'm sure. O'Neal has offers from NC State, Indiana, Georgia Tech, Illinois, Wake Forest, West Virginia again, Mississippi State, Michigan, Penn State, and others. O'Neal will announce his decision on August 16th with Brandon Dunn on WPDE-TV during the station's 6 p.m. newscast. All right, we're bringing it local here. Spring Valley linebacker Channing Tindall was offered by Florida State on Thursday while on a visit. He visits the Florida Gators on Friday. Clemson running back target Asa Martin of Decatur, Alabama, will visit both sides, Alabama and Auburn, this weekend. Per David Hood of TigerNet, offensive lineman Trey Hill of Warner Robins, Georgia, will be at Clemson Friday for the All-In Cookout. He was at Auburn Thursday. USC, this is in basketball. USC on Wednesday offered 5'10" point guard Alex Lomax of Memphis. Some of his other offers are Memphis, Missouri, Cal, Florida, LSU, Ole Miss, Seton Hall, Vanderbilt, and Mississippi State. And that, my friends, is the recruiting report.
The award-winning recruiting report.
I can
The
remember
award-winning.
when Dana Kirk was at Memphis, you wouldn't – if a guy was in Memphis, they put up barriers to stop them from going to any other school in Memphis. And I guess the only other guy Frank Martin worries about when you're talking about Memphis is the team down the road where a friend of his coaches, that's at Ole Miss. Those two schools tend to just siphon players out of out of Memphis. It's hard to get them out of there.
Get a little pocket to the policeman to stop cars, recruits from leaving town. Just how many speeding tickets can you get before you leave Tennessee?
I think that might be a recruiting violation. All right, 800-956-7266. The British Open, Jordan Spieth at 5 under par, Brooks Koepka at 5 under par, Matt Kuchar is 5 under par as well. Since the start of 2015, Jordan Spieth has led or co-led after 11 rounds in the majors. Let me put that in perspective for you. Second on that list, Dustin Johnson, 7 rounds. Well, pretty impressive.
Well, Dustin Johnson, once his consistency picked up, that's when he really became a real professional golfer. Now, if we can just keep him out of renting homes and walking downstairs, he'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll talk some golf. George Bryan will join us at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. His son, Wesley Bryan, 4 over par 74. He played in the absolute worst of the weather today, and hopefully he'll be able to pick some of that up tomorrow because he should play in the better part of the day. USC Athletic Hall of Fame, 8 new members elected. They were announced today. Chuck Allen, a football player, member of the Board of Trustees for a long time. Football player Bill Courier played from 74 to 76, also played in the National Football League.
The Giants.
Oilers, Patriots, and Giants, yep. Larry Davis, a basketball player.
From my hometown.
97.
Denmark. He actually lived in Older, but we claim him.
You claim him? Okay. Randy March, 1977 baseball player, went 14-0. Jim Carlin called June Raines and said, I got this tight end. He's not playing very much. Says he can play baseball. You want to take a look at him? June said, yeah, I guess so. Bring him on over. Offensive tackle Jamar Nesbitt, 95 through 98, 3-time All-SEC performer. I thought he was a really good football player. Same with Eric Norwood. Eric, that nose for the ball, you can say that about Eric.
Yeah, Norwood, one of those classic guys who, when he moved up, had no position in the National Football League. And that happens sometimes.
Well, he's kind of made one. Didn't he just sign a huge contract? I think so.
No, I thought he was.
Oh, I'm thinking of Melvin. I'm thinking of
Melvin Ingram.
I'm thinking of Melvin Ingram. You're right. Tricia Popowski, softball player. Jennifer Van Assen Brunelli, swimming and diving. One of my first classes at Carolina was a swimming class, PE class. I almost drowned. I almost became the first casualty of the PE department at USC. That was the first course at Carolina that I dropped. All right, we'll be back. Sports Talk here on the South Carolina News Network.
Don't stop now. More sports talk is on its way. Listen to the final word in sports all across the state with your host, Phil Kornblut.
Well, evidently nobody had Michael Orr's blind side. He
Oh no.
really what? Come on. He was released by the Panthers today with a failed physical designation. He's been in a concussion protocol for about 4 years. Actually, just 3 games. He only played 3 games last year, so he's been in concussion protocol for almost a year, since last September. Was planning on reporting to training camp next week in Spartanburg, but Marty Herney, the interim general manager, said, that's okay, don't bother. The Panthers did sign Trey Turner to a 4-year contract extension worth $45 million. All right, the British Open underway at the Royal Birkdale, and made a lot of difference when you started. George Bryan joining us. And George, your son Wesley was not real lucky on his starting time today.
Well, but he wasn't the only one.
That's true.
Everybody knows that that's one of the biggest challenges with the British Open. And hey, this game of golf, there's no explanation. I heard you say concussion protocol. It came to mind that golf, especially major championship golf, could be a little bit like a self-induced concussion by just entering in the tournament. It can make you crazy.
There's no doubt about that. I used to get crazy in the City Open, for goodness sakes. But Jordan Spieth, just nice and easy, 5 under par today. Brooks Koepka, Matt Kuchar, also 5 under. They had a little more adventure, I think, than Spieth. I saw an interesting stat since the start of 2015. Spieth has led or co-led after 11 rounds in the majors. Dustin Johnson has the second most with 7. That's an interesting stat.
And I tell you what is fantastic about that. And if you can close the deal, if you start with the lead and then you can close it off, you grow fast. And that's one of the things that's one of the things these new young players, they're figuring out is how to play with that pressure, and they want it, they get it. And I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Spieth and Brooks, they kept going. And I'll tell you, I know you're looking at leaderboard too. I like Matt Kuchar, Paul Casey. There's one sneaking up. Ian Poulter has got my attention. He's really one of the most animated foreign players on our tour. That a lot of people don't know a lot about Poulter, but he has got it. I'm kind of pulling quietly for him.
Well, he dresses funny, but Ian played early too, so he played in some of the bad weather. I think Jordan Spieth played in some of the bad weather as well.
Yeah, Spieth. So based on what I saw, and I didn't see as much early. I didn't get up. Maybe tomorrow I'll wake up early, Teddy. You got to get up really early to catch it.
I do that every morning, George.
Hey, are you telling me you bypass that beauty sleep, Teddy?
Well, I don't have much choice. I got to buy groceries.
Well, I'm liking Ernie Els on that leaderboard. If he hangs around a little bit and the weather gets rough, I mentioned Ian Poulter, and there's another young player, Bayo. He is, and notice these folks, they're European descent. They are real familiar with the element, and I like this part. I like this part of the tournament where you can get some forecasting going. The element's going to change. Now all they got to do is figure out how to get up early.
Well, there's an old saying that you can't win a tournament the first day, but you can certainly lose it. As far as Wesley is concerned, he finished at 4 over par. Is his goal strictly now to go out and make the cut?
Wesley studies history a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and look at the last time this tournament was played, and I think this is right, you'd have to check me on it, but I think the eventual winner started with 74.
Okay.
So maybe he went back and saw what happened the last time it was here, and I think Harrington won it. If it wasn't Harrington, it was one of the last 2 times, the guy who started off with a 74 won the tournament. But there ain't no question that you got to go out and make the cut. That's obvious. And he didn't make any birdies today. So he was dry there, and I'm guessing he's a little bit hungry. I hope he's plenty patient, and because he can definitely make birdies. No question. He definitely has a good short game.
Well, tell us this, George. If Wesley, how does he mentally block out the elements? Because some golfers will tell you they walk out and see those elements, especially at the Open, and they're psyched out before they even, get to the first tee. So how mentally do you block that out?
That's a great question. I'm hoping he uses the same ideas as what he normally would do, and he loves to win. First of all, he loves to win, and he loves tough, and he feels like that's an advantage to him. Now that look in competition at the British Open is a brand new look for him. I'm not with him. I'm only guessing, but I think that he actually embraces it, hopes it blows hard. The more extreme the conditions, because he's one of the few guys out there, I will tell you, that he moves his ball low, high, left to right, right to left. For any of the young players, he's off the chart. He's got some old school in him there, Doc and Pro. So he likes those elements. For Wesley, I believe he embraces them.
Well, he was well taught as a youngster, I understand.
Hey, the game does teach. Well, I tell you what, his imagination isn't lacking either. But there are a lot of other guys, and there's still a lot of golf left.
Yeah, well, that's great point. But I mean, those guys, you would think most of them would be able to hit all 4 shots. High draw, low draw, high fade, low fade.
Hey, all of them can hit the shots, but in competition, especially major competition, a lot of them really will try to stay with their stock shot and not try to alter that. And hey, there's a guy. There are a bunch of players that did pretty good with that. Jack Nicklaus did all right at the British Open, and he didn't go off. He didn't try to alter the shot trajectory as much as, for example, Peter Thompson or Tom Watson. Those guys. But Wesley's one that doesn't like to work his ball. But a lot of them still don't. They stay a little closer to that stock shot. Wesley doesn't have one. So really cool about golf. Bunch of different ways to get it done.
Key's just getting in the hole, right?
There you go.
Nobody really. You only look at that scorecard, that little number at the end. They don't really tell. There's no room for a story.
Yeah, but we all have one.
and every one of those matter. Thank goodness. That's why radio rocks.
Yeah, that's why we love golf too. What's the old saying? Yeah, what's the old saying? Do I need a golf cart for this trip? Need a scorecard? Yeah. Hey, all right, George. I appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow night, and hopefully we got some good news to talk about.
See you tomorrow.
All right, George Bryan, the third. Wesley shoots, and he pointed out did not make a birdie. He was. I don't have his scorecard right in front of me. I saw it earlier. I think he was 3 over through like 7 holes. So he hung in there and made a bunch of pars, and then made a bogey late. There's only 2 par 5s on the course, and both of them come late. I think 15 and 17. So you kind of hang in there, and then finally at 15 and 17, I think it's 15 and 17. It's 2 late holes. You get an opportunity to make some birdies. My understanding is the first hole is just a bear, just a really a lot of architects like to have. You see, golf courses have a lot of par 5s to open with. Right. They like to let you ease into the round. Exactly. Well, they're not doing that at Royal Birkdale.
No, they're gonna try to scare you. Now this is not the course with the walls sitting there.
No, that's St. Andrews.
Remember St. Andrews? I forgot what the golfer's name was, but his career was never the same after he tried to get out of there and he had to putt and the wall is staring at him. I can't remember who it was, but I think it took
a road hole.
7 straight holes or something. It's like he was in a ditch.
Yeah, well, one of my on my bucket list is to play St. Andrews, but probably won't make it. But it is on my bucket list.
It may make you kick the bucket.
It might. All right. I want to talk some Sterling Sharp, believe it or not. Terrell Davis with some interesting comments about Sharp. We'll be right back. right, our buddy to pro, George Bryan III, was absolutely correct. Jerry doing a little research over there. Patrick Harrington opened the 2008 British Open at Royal Birkdale with a 74 and went on to win. And in 1965, Peter Thompson and went on to win. The latest odds after the first round, Jordan Spieth is 4-1 to win the Open. Brooks Koepka 8-1. Matt Kuchar 10-1. Paul Casey 12-1. Hideki Matsuyama 15-1. Charles Schwartzel 15-1. Justin Thomas 20-1. John Rahm is 20-1. We do not encourage betting on sports, however.
Unless you're Pete Rose. What was it the guy said about Pete Rose? He said he saw Rose every time they travel. He was in the limo or he was in the hotel room. Said this guy really loves sports because he keeps watching all these games or whatever. He had money on the games. That's why he was watching them.
Yep, you're right. Number of things happening besides the British Open from a news standpoint. Former South Carolina baseball coach Chad Holbrook will stay in state, become the next coach at College of Charleston. Well, this got to be kind of a circus the past couple of days, but the college did announce the hire this morning. College of Charleston, 28-31 a year ago. The Cougars under Monty Lee reached the NCAA tournament 4 times in Monty's final 6 seasons, and they did win a regional in 2014. Gamecocks 35-25 this year, I think. Does that sound right?
That is correct.
Yeah. 200-106 in Coach Holbrook's 5 seasons. Won the SEC East in 2016. Went to 2 super regionals 2016. So Coach Holbrook. Scott Iceberg from the WCIV TV. Is that Channel 4? Do you know? Yeah. Okay. He has tweeted out that Erskine head coach Kevin Nichols will join Holbrook's staff down in Charleston, and that Scott Wingo, the former second baseman, is considering an offer to come along as a volunteer assistant. Alex Riley of the Star News in Wilmington, North Carolina, tweeting that North Carolina Wilmington pitching coach Matt Williams is a candidate to come as the pitching coach and lead recruiter. Also, the juice is loose, or at least he will be. Been in prison for nearly a decade. O.J. Simpson granted parole today. He had served the minimum of a 9 to 33-year sentence at Lovelock Correctional Center, a medium security prison northeast of Reno, convicted in 2008 of armed robbery and other charges related to a botched sports memorabilia heist in a Las Vegas hotel room. He will not be free until August the 1st. I'm sorry, October the 1st. October the 1st. Simpson is 70 years old. Says he wants to get near his kids in Florida. I think his 2 younger kids live in the Tampa area, and both are involved in real estate. The Doak Walker Award watch list is out, and it includes Rico Dowdle of South Carolina. I agree with the professor, Tom Hayes. I think Rico's a very good player. Also on the list from the ACC and the SEC, Demaria Crockett from Missouri, Damon Harris, Alabama, Georgia, Cameron Petway, Auburn, Jordan Scarlett from Florida, Ralph Webb from Vanderbilt, from Mississippi State, Nick Chubb from Georgia, Darius Geis from LSU, John Hillman from Boston College, Dietrich Mills from Georgia Tech, Shox Patrick from Florida State, Bo Scarborough from Alabama. I like that Scarborough kid. I think he's pretty good.
Yeah. I think that hurt Alabama when he had a slight bone fracture in the leg in the championship game.
Yes. Benny Snell, Kentucky. Devois Whaley from Arkansas, and Sean Wilson from Duke. See if there are any other names that kind of jump out at me from other parts of our fine country. What are we now, 43 days? Is that right?
43 days.
43 days until the Gamecocks and the Tigers play.
Well, you know,
football.
The one thing I will say about some of these running backs now, Teddy, is years ago, a running back didn't hit his stride. He carried the ball about 8 or 9 straight times.
Mm-hmm.
And now guys go in and out. I'm trying to figure out, is that good or not? Because it seems like when a back is really on a roll, they pull him out and put another guy in for him to take a breather. I think some of those guys don't really hit their stride till they get popped about 3 or 4 times and really start to run over people.
We've got room for you if you want to join us, 800-956-7266. One game in his college career, O.J. Simpson carried, I think it was 46 times, and someone asked John McKay about it, and he said, hey, the ball's not heavy.
Yeah.
But now teams do recruit for the purpose of, or most teams, they want to use 2 backs. They'd rather have 2 backs carry 12 times each than one guy carry 24 times.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems to be, I don't know, keep them fresh or whatever. I guess that's the line of thinking these days. I wanted to mention this. One of my all-time favorites at South Carolina is Sterling Sharp, and to me, he's a Hall of Fame football player. But the fact that he got hurt, he played 7 seasons. He got hurt in 1994. Remember who hit him on that play?
Oh, it was Brad Edwards.
Good job. Good job. I'm impressed. But got a neck injury and had to retire. Now, Terrell Davis only played 7 seasons and will be in the NFL Hall of Fame. And yesterday was advocating for Sterling. One time, MVP, Super Bowl MVP, said at a press conference actually today that he does believe Sterling Sharp deserves serious consideration for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Well, you remember when Shannon his brother was inducted, he said, I'm the only person in the Hall of Fame who's the second best player in his family.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with it. When Sterling was on the field, he certainly performed at a Hall of Fame level. 5 1,000-yard seasons, led the NFL in receptions 3 times, twice in touchdowns and yards.
But the one thing that got me about Sterling, Teddy, is he learned in the NFL that he could bring a big running back style to the wide receiver position.
Oh, he was so strong.
He would maul defensive backs in the secondary and make them pay because he had such a strong upper body that he would just wall them off, catch the ball, and then try to just stiff arm them down the field as he's running. So,
he would create separation.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely, that's a very insightful comment because that was one of his strengths. Now he could flat run, but he was one of the pound for pound. He might have been the strongest guy on the Gamecock team back in when he was here, 84 through 87. But Terrell Davis said Sterling Sharp's name should be mentioned with the Hall of Fame. A lot of people believe before Sterling got hurt, if he didn't get hurt, the man would have been probably one of the greatest wide receivers to have played the game. I agree. I'm always going to root for those guys whose careers are probably taking a knot because they didn't play long enough, because I know how that feels. But I think things are changed. I think the mentality, attitude toward the longevity is starting to shift a little bit. Well, Gale Sayers only played 5 years.
Yeah. That's all. But he was just absolutely incredible. And it was sad that he didn't get hurt in this era, because now they can – I think Gale would have played longer if he had all the arthroscopic surgeries that they have now and where they rebuild the knee. But back then –
yeah, it was gone. Sterling had his high school jersey retired, had his college jersey. Quarterback.
Yes.
And in high school. One of my all-time favorites, and I'm all for that. I'm all for that. All right, 800-956-7266 if you'd like to join us on Sports Talk. I was telling my weightlifting story to the professor as we were coming back, but my freshman year, or after my freshman year, weights was just coming in. I mean, I'm old. You know, I'm old. I tell people that my first year of football, I did not wear a leather helmet, but the people in the back of the line, they got one. But I was doing just a military press, I believe it's called, and I put and we really didn't have a weight room. We had made a weight lifting area in one of the locker rooms, in the B squad locker room, and we had pushed 2 mats up against each other. And when I put my foot back for some balance, it caught right between the mats, and I slipped and fell. And I looked over at my left wrist, and my thumb was touching my forearm. So I knew I was in trouble.
Yeah, not good.
So that kind of turned me off of weightlifting for a while. So I never was really into the weightlifting because of that. It's interesting you mentioned the Braves and some possible trades. One of the rumors out there now is that the Minnesota Twins and the Braves, it just seems a formality now. The Twins have agreed. This is Jeff Todd with MLB Trade Rumors. Oh, it's a .com. Yeah, MLBTradeRumors.com says that being finalized right now. Everything's done except for the formalities, but the Twins have agreed to acquire Jaime Garcia. See, I thought Garcia would be a little more effective than he's been, because he had some really good years with the Cardinals. But he'll be a good guy. He'll be a good guy for the Twins. The Twins are a half game behind Cleveland in the American League Central. So I think that will be. I think that will be a good move for them. And we mentioned Sonny Gray, the latest on Sonny Gray. Houston was interested, but now it seems like that they are looking elsewhere. The Athletics are obviously got the price very, very high for Sonny Gray. You know,
that's their age. You can't, you gotta, they're looking for prospects, I'd imagine.
Yes, I'm sure that they are.
They're looking for probably get 3 or 4 if they could get those prospects. Similar to what the Astros had to do years ago when they just tore that team down and they lost, about 3 or 4 years of 100 ball games, and then look at them now. And then, of course, the Braves wanted to do the same thing and then fatten their farm system. That's the one thing I like about baseball. It's proven now you can't just write the big checks and get the free agents and win every year. You better have a farm system.
Right. And just because you've got great players, they still have to mesh as a team. All sports are like that. Now, baseball is probably the most individual of the team sports, but it's still a team sport.
Exactly.
And you have to have that chemistry, et cetera, et cetera. But those are a couple of trade notes. This afternoon, Toronto beat Boston 8-6. Justin Smoak 3 for 5, knocked in 3 runs, and went deep twice. He's having a great year. A couple of home runs. He's now got 24 home runs. That's a career high. And 58 RBIs. He's only one off his career high in RBIs.
Is this a contract year for him?
I don't know.
It ought to be.
It better be, yeah. The winning pitcher was Dominic Leone, the former Clemson right-handed. I tell you what, if you would ask me during Dominic Leone's college days, is he a major league prospect? I would have said, no, I don't think so. But he's made it work. And Steve Pierce, Mike Morgan, who we had on earlier, called a lot of baseball for South Carolina, play-by-play voice. Pierce was the best player he saw, best hitter he saw, according to him, and he was a really good hitter here at South Carolina. Of course, the best college player I ever saw was Khalil Green. Boy, what a year he had! We had 474 or something one year.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable at that level.
The guy would never bend the bill of his cap. It was always straight.
Well, everybody does that now. But he knocked in 2 runs today as well. Mets 3-2 over St. Louis. Pittsburgh 4-2 over Milwaukee. And Arizona beat Cincinnati 4-2. The Braves are at the Dodgers. The Dodgers have won 31 of 35. They're 31-4 for the first time since 1899.
The only run I've seen similar to that, Teddy, you can recall this some years ago when Sparky Anderson was with the Detroit Tigers.
They opened the season on tight run.
It was 38-4 or something like that to open the season.
1984. I mean, they just ran away from it or with it to begin with it. From it as well, I guess. But yeah, old Sparky in the 84 Detroit Tigers. All right, if you would like to join us, 800-956-7266, 800-956-7266. The Athletic Hall of Fame, we really haven't gotten into the individual players too much. I mentioned Randy Martz a little bit. I was covering South Carolina baseball back in his day, but Randy Martz, 1977, went 14-0, was the National Pitcher of the Year that year. That was a great year out in Omaha because Clemson opened that season 26-0, and they were out there as well, both Clemson and South Carolina. And that was the original 8-team tournament. It's not like it is today where you basically have 2 4-team tournaments. So he's the only baseballer in this group. From football, Chuck Allen. I think Chuck's in there for his football. He was a good football player now.
Well, yeah.
But he's also in there for his work with the Board of Trustees.
Offensive line?
Defensive line.
Okay.
I think he played at least 1 year, maybe 2 years with my morning partner, Dr. Sanford. Bill Courier, football. Now, he played with Dr. Sanford and played in the NFL. And Jamar Nesbitt, who I thought was a really good player. He played 11 years in the NFL. Where did he play in high school? Didn't he play at a small school in the upstate?
Yeah.
I can't remember where he played in high school, but I remember when Phil and I worked together years ago, we did the show. We did the show from a fish camp up in the upstate area. Well, not really the upstate area, but towards Charlotte.
Right. I remember that.
The Shrine Bowl week, and they had the Shrine Bowlers come in. I remember having Jamar on the show, and quiet, soft-spoken, but boy, he was a big dude. But very good football player. Eric Norwood, who I keep confusing with Melvin Ingram. Eric says, "I'll take his paycheck."
Paycheck.
Yeah. But he played for the Panthers and also in the Canadian Football League. Another football player. Did I get all the football players? And from basketball, just one basketball player. It's football heavy class. Larry Davis from Denmark.
I can recall a story when Larry actually played with my nephew in high school, and that's when I think North Carolina. Larry's dad lived in North Carolina, and he always dreamed of playing at North Carolina. But North Carolina was following him, but not really recruiting him because their roster was full. Then they had a guard transfer to VCU, and Larry had his opening. So North Carolina came in at the last minute and scooped him up. And of course,
wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You transferred from North Carolina to
their roster was full.
Yeah, but they had a guard transfer.
They had a guard
from
transfer
North Carolina
to VCU because he didn't think he was going to get any playing time.
Well, he wanted to play. Heck, I don't blame him.
So anyway, that was the opening for Larry, but Larry was miscast as a point guard.
Yeah.
And then he transferred here and scored some points. I remember walking in my daddy's shop. He said, "Larry, congratulations on your game. You had the place should have been all along instead of going up there chasing the Tar Heels." But but they played him where he had to play, and that was at shooting guard.
Yeah, he was when he got hot, he could get as hot as anybody. All right, be right back at room 4. Please join us. You're on Sports Talk. right, I was talking about the Hall of Fame and kind of tickled a memory. Larry Davis, and I double checked because I didn't want to be. And basketball is your area of expertise anyway, pro. But he was on the national championship team at North Carolina as a freshman in 1993. And that team also had Kevin Salvador. You remember him?
Yeah.
Was he any kin to Al Salvador that played here at South Carolina in the mid-60s?
Yes, it was. It was his son.
Was it his son?
It was his son.
7-footer. Dang it, Al, why didn't you send him to South Carolina? But I do kind of remember something about that back in the day. But Larry, I don't know how much he played as a true freshman, but he was on that national championship team. So at least he got a championship ring.
He got a championship ring. He was made sure he was right there in the middle posing with the cheerleaders right after it. But, the interesting thing about him, since, he and my nephew used to pal around, is Larry was the quietest, unassuming guy you would see. He came to my parents' house one time and just watching TV, and my nephew was there, and said, Larry, you sure my dad said, Larry, you sure you the guy shooting all those points, man? You sit over there, you so quiet, nobody even know you. He said something come over you when you walk across the lines or something.
Boy, he could shoot that shot from the corner. Now he had that corner jumper. But that team, Eric Montross was on the team, and that's some big dudes. Montross was 7 foot. Salvadori was 7 foot. Some of the other guys I don't really remember. Donald Williams, I remember him, 6'3" guard. He was a good player. George Lynch, 6'7", forward. Remember him. But
he had a pretty good career in the NBA as a coming off the bench for a lot of teams. But they had a dynamite team back then. And lucky for Larry, there's Eddie Fogler, who had his contacts in North Carolina, and when he was ready to transfer, he took Larry under his wing. And of course, it didn't hurt that you get a center out of Burke High School who happened to be only 6'1" and could run like a deer, and Melvin Watson.
Boy, Melvin Watson was he was the catalyst for those teams.
He really was. Well, nobody could press South Carolina because of him.
Oh, he was so quick.
Because when you pressed, they were already up the court and laying it in because he'd gone by.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of guys through history could hit the light switch and be in bed before it got dark. He could hit the light switch, be in bed, and have the covers pulled up before it got dark in the room. Larry, on his sophomore year, pretty good people here he played with. Of course, he played with Montross, but also on that team, Rasheed Wallace was a freshman. On that team, Jerry Stackhouse was a freshman on that team. And then, of course, he transferred his sophomore year and sat out 1 year and then played in 96 and 97 with the Gamecocks. But let's see, when did they say when the induction? Yeah, here it is. The individuals will be inducted in the Hall of Fame on September the 21st at the Zone at Williams-Brice Stadium. My morning partner here in Columbia, Dr. Rick Sanford, of course, is a member of the South Carolina Athletics Hall of Fame.
I got some breaking news for you.
He's also a member of the State Hall of Fame, member of his high school Hall of Fame. I told him I was going to get into the State Hall of Fame. All I had to do was buy a ticket.
There you go.
You got some breaking news?
Hugh Freeze just resigned.
Ooh, interesting.
Well, that's interesting.
Doesn't surprise me a lot. I guess the chickens come home to roost, so to speak.
Well, the key point is you would wonder why he lasted this long. And let's face it, one of the reasons he did is he's an alumnus of Ole Miss. And I think the people love the fact that he had rejuvenated the program. But, Teddy, we've always said that, even though fans these days don't have any patience, you better have some, because we always know when you do the quick fix, the fix is in. Somehow they're going to find out about you. And they got too good too quickly.
Well, and he kept saying, you think we do something wrong? Investigate us. Well, they did. Hugh Freeze has resigned effective immediately. Matt Luke will be the interim head coach. And this is 3 weeks until they report.
And I'm not so certain. Wasn't Matt Luke one of the line coaches they were looking at South Carolina? I think Muschamp was looking at him.
That I do not know.
I think they were looking at him once they made the change. Yeah, that's kind of interesting there. But I'm not so surprised. You think about the timing though, this so close to the season. But maybe he was feeling the heat and it was time to get out of the kitchen at this point. But when he get guys like Jeremy Tunsil and Kamdichi and those guys, it was too quick. It was too meteoric a rise for Ole Miss, and it caught up with them. Well,
Pat Forday of Yahoo, isn't it Yahoo he's with now?
I think so.
Who has been around college football a long time, had reported that some, as he put it, explosive new information that came to light. So it must have been explosive. So, yep, Hugh Freeze has been put on ice. I'm sorry, that's terrible. But anyway, Ole Miss making that announcement just a little bit ago. Hugh Freeze has resigned effective immediately. I guess they were trying to get all the contract stuff worked out.
Yeah, try to get that contract worked out. Try to ease him out where somewhere along the line, maybe he gets a chance maybe at another school. Because Teddy, with all the shenanigans at Ole Miss, I still think he's looking at their teams. He was a good football coach. He's a good football coach.
Don't you think he might have to go the NFL route, to kind of redo his image? Yeah.
Either that or, start off at, the bowl championship series level, I guess, which we used to call 1AA.
Right.
Which I prefer still.
I still have a tendency to call it 1AA as well. It just makes it a little more, it's a little more descriptive to me.
Now I get the feeling that the vultures, Teddy, when a coach walks off at this time of year or any time,
right?
I get this vision in my sight of buzzards flying around Ole Miss's roster. Now, when you transfer, somebody's going to try to get, because he does still have some talented players on that football team that probably want to transfer. It'd be interesting to see where some of these guys go.
Luke is in his 6th season as co-offensive coordinator and offensive line coach on Hugh Freeze's staff, but his 10th season overall at Ole Miss. So he's been around for a while.
Now who was? Remind me, Teddy, because I'm getting old too. The coach at Tennessee, who used to be head coach at Oakland, who's now going down.
Lane
Kiffin.
Florida Atlantic.
Now, when people said Ole Miss was doing something, and I said, well, maybe they just had some luck in recruiting. But then I saw that Lane Kiffin's brother was the recruiting coordinator at Ole Miss. I said, they must be doing something.
All right, so Matt Luke, the interim coach, maybe if he does a good job. They wanted Ed Orgeron, but he wasn't available.
I don't think so.
Hopefully we'll have Chad Holbrook with us tomorrow night on Sports Talk. Everybody have a good night. Be safe, be careful, and but have fun, and we'll see you back here tomorrow night.